Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a Tuesday afternoon could feel like the last page of my life. My name's Owen, and at 38 I thought I knew people. I thought I knew marriage. I thought I knew my wife. But apparently, I was only fooling myself. The call came while I was halfway through an overdue project at my office. My phone rang, and the display flashed Clara, my soon-to-be ex-wife. A chill ran through me, the kind that sinks straight to your chest. I answered, and immediately she put it on speaker. The background noise was unmistakable, laughter. Light, careless, the kind that hits your ears like salt on a fresh wound. "I'm finalizing the divorce," she announced casually, as if we were discussing what to have for dinner. Her friends were laughing in the background, and the sound of their amusement pierced me deeper than I expected. I swallowed hard. "Oh," I said, voice steady, though my hands were shaking. "Emily's laughing? Guess she didn't hear you're dating her husband." Silence followed for a brief second, then nervous giggles. Clara's laugh faltered, and I felt a quiet satisfaction I didn't expect. Years of silence, small betrayals, and countless nights of walking on eggshells had led me here. And now, finally, there was a crack in her perfect little performance. The story between Clara, me, and Emily wasn't simple. Not by a long shot. I'd met Clara when I was 25. She was vibrant, magnetic, a spark that could light up any room. I was steady, a bit reserved, but dependable. She said she liked that about me. "Owen, you're solid," she'd said. I had thought that meant she wanted forever. I had thought I could trust her completely. But life doesn't work that way. People change. Or maybe they show who they really were, and you just didn't notice. Our marriage had been slowly unraveling for years. At first, it was small things, missed birthdays, forgotten plans. Then it escalated to cold shoulders, silent dinners, and nights where she would turn away in bed as if my presence was a burden. I kept hoping. Hoping is dangerous, I learned. I held on to loyalty like a life raft, paying bills, maintaining the house, doing everything I thought a husband should do. And still, every effort bounced back at me like stones against concrete. I remembered one night vividly. She had spent the evening texting her friends while I tried to engage, suggesting a small getaway to reconnect. Her response? A shrug, a dismissive glance, and a cold, "I'm tired." That night, as I lay awake on the couch, I realized something crucial. Love had left the room years ago. I had been the only one trying to keep it alive. And now, as she finalized the divorce over speakerphone, her friends laughing as if this was some trivial story, I felt clarity wash over me. Not anger, not bitterness, just cold, sharp clarity. If you're enjoying this story and want it to reach more people, make sure to like the video now. I took a deep breath, letting the words I didn't speak hang in the room. Emily, the woman I'd known as my friend, who had seemed harmless for years. I had never suspected she and Clara were close enough to orchestrate this silent betrayal together. Yet there it was, undeniable and cruel. After the call, I didn't react immediately. I sat at my desk, staring at the wall, replaying every moment of the past decade. Every smile, every shared secret, every "I love you" that now felt like a lie. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? I decided I needed perspective, so I reached out to my closest friend, Max, and told him everything. His response was simple, but it struck me deeply. "Owen, you're not wrong for feeling hurt, but you are wrong if you let them control your emotions any longer." His words resonated. I realized that I had spent so much energy trying to preserve a facade, trying to keep everyone happy, that I had forgotten one essential truth. My peace matters more than anyone else's deception. Later that night, I walked through the quiet streets of my neighborhood. The city lights reflected off wet asphalt from a light drizzle earlier, and it felt as though the world itself was acknowledging my silent triumph. I wasn't victorious in the traditional sense. No one had apologized. No one had begged for forgiveness. But I was free. For the first time in years, I was not tethered to someone else's lies. Comment below what you would have done if you were in my place. Let's get a discussion going about loyalty, betrayal, and self-respect. I knew I couldn't rely on revenge or confrontation. That wasn't my style, and honestly, it wouldn't fix the emptiness I'd felt for years. Instead, I focused on rebuilding myself. Gym, books, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. Every small victory reminded me that I still existed outside of their deceit. But Clara wasn't done. A week later, I received an innocuous text from her. A casual check-in, masking concern with feigned calm. I ignored it. She had made her choice. I had made mine. And in that space of silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years: clarity and a quiet form of power. Type the word clarity in the comments if you believe sometimes silence speaks louder than confrontation. I started noticing small things too. How easily I could breathe, how dinners felt lighter, how laughter returned not just from friends, but from myself. It was subtle at first, but unmistakable. The world no longer felt like a trap set by two people who had mastered the art of emotional manipulation. I was no longer a pawn in their private game. Evenings that I used to dread now felt like opportunities. I took walks with Max, talked to my sister Holly, and reconnected with hobbies I had shelved for the sake of keeping the peace in a marriage that had long been over. Each day was a reminder. My life was mine again. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that sometimes leaving is the bravest choice you can make. The next morning, I woke up to the sun streaming through my bedroom window. The warmth hit my face, and for a moment, I realized something I hadn't in years. I wasn't dreading the day. No arguments, no secrets, no silent battles. Just morning light and the knowledge that I was finally untangled from Clara's web of deceit. It wasn't easy. Every time my phone buzzed, a tiny part of me tensed, expecting another laugh, another betrayal, another casual humiliation. But I didn't answer. I let it sit. Every unanswered message was a small victory. Every ignored attempt at guilt was proof that I controlled my life now. That's when Emily entered the picture. Not in person, but through whispers and rumors I heard from mutual friends. She had been Clara's accomplice, the one laughing in the background during the call that had shattered me. At first, the anger bubbled. I wanted to confront, to scream, to make her regret ever smiling at that phone. But then I remembered Max's words. Let them live in the chaos they created. Your peace is untouchable. I started rebuilding not just physically but emotionally. I reconnected with old friends like Sophie and Leo, and I met new people who didn't carry hidden agendas. I focused on hobbies that reminded me who I was before Clara's laughter defined my existence. And in that process, something remarkable happened. I stopped thinking about them as much. Weeks later, I attended a small gathering organized by Sophie. The room was filled with laughter, light chatter, and genuine warmth. As I stood by the kitchen counter, sipping a drink, I overheard a familiar voice. Clara's, coming from a corner, laughing with her friends. The sound used to pierce me. Now it barely registered. I smiled faintly, not out of mockery, but because it reminded me how far I'd come. If this story resonates with your journey, hit that like button to support stories that empower people to reclaim their lives. That night, I sat alone with my thoughts, reflecting on the past months. The call on speaker, the laughter, the betrayal, it all seemed surreal. I realized that my anger had faded, replaced with clarity and determination. Clara and Emily had chosen their paths, and I had chosen mine. Mine was not defined by revenge, but by self-respect, growth, and reclaiming the years I had lost. I began journaling again, pouring out emotions I had kept buried for too long. Every entry reminded me of the lessons learned. Trust cautiously, love fiercely, but never at the expense of your own worth. And slowly, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. One evening, as I was leaving a small cafe, I bumped into Nina, a colleague I had always admired from afar. We talked, laughed, and shared stories. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just two people enjoying the simplicity of connection. And in that moment, I realized life was not over. It had just shifted, and I was finally free to live on my own terms. Share this story with someone who might be going through betrayal, Sometimes the hardest endings lead to the most meaningful beginnings. A few days later, I received an unexpected text. Not from Clara, not from Emily, but from Holly, my sister. Owen, I'm proud of you. You handled everything with strength. It struck me how much I had grown. I hadn't sought praise, but her acknowledgement felt grounding. I realized that real strength wasn't about confrontation. It was about control, patience, and dignity. Over time, I started engaging online with people who had gone through similar experiences. Their stories, their pain, their resilience. It reminded me that I wasn't alone. And every comment, every shared anecdote, reinforced a simple truth. We all deserve respect, honesty, and the freedom to step away from toxic circumstances. Comment below your thoughts. What word would you use to describe reclaiming your life after betrayal? Let's create a discussion that empowers others. Eventually, I found myself laughing again. Genuinely. Not the forced, hollow laughter of a man trying to keep the peace, but the real, unburdened laughter of someone who had survived and grown stronger. I even reconnected with old friends who had drifted away during my marriage. Max, Sophie, Leo, and each connection reminded me of what I had almost lost. And then came the final closure. Clara reached out via a brief text, casual, almost careless. Hope you're doing well. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, without typing a word, I deleted it. I didn't need her acknowledgement. I didn't need her apology. The chapter was closed. If you want to see more stories like this, hit like, leave a comment answering this question. Have you ever reclaimed your life after betrayal? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire strength and self-respect. That night, I lay in bed reflecting on everything. The call on speaker, the laughter, the months of uncertainty, and the slow rebuild of my life. The emotions were still raw at times, but I had learned to navigate them with clarity. Betrayal had taught me lessons no words could have captured. That loyalty should never be blind, that respect is earned and given in equal measure, and that sometimes the best revenge is living well. And as I drifted off to sleep, a thought lingered. Happiness doesn't come from revenge or validation from others. It comes from reclaiming your story, owning your worth, and walking forward with your head held high. Like this story, if you believe self-respect is priceless, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to follow journeys of real-life courage and empowerment.